Anything you guys want to say before we start things off?
So we got a couple of things that we wanted to make clear. There will probably be some trades in the lottery. We decided against any trades. No trades in our mock here. It just makes things too complicated. We'd have to go through all the salary cap stuff. It's just too unlikely that we would get it right in the first place. So we decided no trades. And other than that, I think these are mostly just picks that we would make for the team. It's not necessarily what we're guessing the team is going to do. Just kind of what we think would be best.
Yep. And so that being said, with the number 1 overall pick, the Boston Celtics in the MassLive mock draft, Facebook Live, are going to take Markelle Fultz. There are other good prospects, great prospects in this draft. I think Lonzo Ball, Josh Jackson in a normal draft might go number 1. I think Markelle Fultz is just a more complete prospect. There is very little he can't do. Actually, kind of nothing he can't do offensively. No holes in his game. I just think there's a smaller chance that he not even flops, but isn't great than the other guys. I think there are some holes in Lonzo Ball's game. I think there are some holes in Josh Jackson's game. I think Fultz, like, you can nitpick about his defense if you want, and that's fair. You can talk about his effort level sometimes, which is fair. But as far as skill and talent and potential, he has everything you'd want in an NBA point guard, from length to athleticism to ball handling skills to creativity to body control. Like, the combination of assets that he has on the court is very, very rare in an NBA point guard. So I think the Celtics will have a very tough time passing on Markelle Fultz.
It was funny earlier because we were kind of going through his potential NBA comps, and we were like, okay, well, he can speed up and slow down like James Harden, and okay, like, his game is pretty smooth like Brandon Roy, and okay, he's kind of got like a little bit of a Kyrie layup package to him, and just when you start adding them all up, it sounds ridiculous almost. It's like you're designing a guy in 2K almost, and that's kind of what his offensive skill set is. It's almost like you leveled up all of the things that you wanted to level up in 2K, and you created the prospect that you were trying to create. That's kind of his offensive game. It's so complete, it's so malleable at this point that I agree. I would make that pick as well, and I don't think there's a whole lot of question about it.
Yeah, and the more you watch him play, the more it's like just eye-opening how complete he is and how solid he is every possession at not just doing things that are really special from time to time, but consistently making the right play. He is a very smart player in addition to all the skills we talked about. So he is a very easy pick at number 1, I think. It's possible that one of those other guys will be better. It's possible even another guy later in the draft, like Dennis Smith, will one day be a better player. But I think Fultz has the highest floor of any of those guys, and probably the highest ceiling too.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think the other thing is, when you look at the Celtics, he's going to be a great fit. I mean, coming off the bench, they need that secondary creator. They need that guy who can score off the bench. They need that guy who can help out. He can play with Isaiah. You know, it's everybody's talked about this already, but he can play with Isaiah. He can score. I mean, he can play off the ball. Isaiah can do the same. And defensively, he was on a really bad team. We've talked about that. His defense was bad, but he's also got the tools. He's got long arms. He's got big hands. He's quick. He's kind of got everything. He's a ridiculous prospect.
Yeah, when you see some of the chase down blocks he had as a point guard, like, only John Wall does that, really.
Right.
Like, there aren't many guys who can do that at any level, especially top level college basketball like he did. And it's some of the stuff you watch it is just ridiculous. He splits double teams with behind the back dribbles. Like, he does some stuff that very few people can do, and he's just turned 19 years old pretty recently. So Markelle Fultz is a 1. Who's 2?
So with the second pick, not going to be a big surprise at 1 or 2. The Los Angeles Lakers are going to take Lonzo Ball here. I am pretty high on Lonzo's fit with the Lakers. I think when you look at how young that team is, they've still got a lot of young talent. They've still got a lot of young pieces that really kind of, they're not leader type players, and there are intangibles with Lonzo Ball. Like, when you watch him, it's clear that he makes a big impact on his teammates. And on a young team like the Lakers, I think that's really good. I think he could have a really good impact on them. I think that he would be the kind of player that could bring out the best in some of these young guys that haven't necessarily had the best brought out in them yet. And I think that would be a fun team to watch. They'd be a league pass favorite for sure with D'Angelo Russell and with Brandon Ingram and Julius Randle, assuming he's there as well next year. So I think he's actually a really good fit. I've seen some people say that they don't necessarily like his fit with Russell, and I think that's fair. But I like it as things currently stand, and so I'm taking him at number 2 for the Lakers.
Especially the way Luke Walton kind of wants to instill the Golden State Warriors type of offense. With all the off-ball movement they have, Lonzo Ball is a super smart cutter. He's super smart in like every single way on the basketball court.
Right.
So when you put that together and the ability to play off ball with next to D'Angelo Russell, who obviously he'll have the ball in his hands as well. I do agree it's a really good fit. And it's tough to say like this 19-year-old kid is going to come in and lift up everybody around him, but that's kind of what he projects to do.
And it's what he did at UCLA.
Yeah, and he's really fun to watch because just the quickness with which he passes the ball forward. Like he doesn't care about making the play himself.
Right.
He's completely and totally fine with pitching it to somebody else and letting them make the play, which is kind of a rare trait when you look at a lot of guys. A lot of guys, not necessarily because of selfishness, but just because they don't have that mentality to look for those opportunities. He's just very, very rare court vision. I love his game. I think he's going to be very good. I do think there are just a couple holes, like the ability to score off the dribble, the ability to break down defenders off the paint, and that's why I think Fultz separates himself as a prospect. But I mean, the Lakers should be very happy with taking Lonzo Ball.
Definitely. Do you think there is any concern for a team just wondering whether they have to deal with the baggage that comes with not only drafting Lonzo Ball, but Lonzo Ball's camp, specifically his dad, and the whole big ballers package that's going to come with it?
And the funny thing is, like, they would be doing it in LeVar Ball's backyard. Like it's not like he'd have to move across the country. Like he could literally just drive to games. And so there is the LeVar Ball thing. I don't think it'll be too much of a distraction. I think you saw at UCLA, everything went smoothly there, and maybe behind the scenes things were tougher than we expected with Coach Steve Alford. But I mean, the kid is what you're really worried about. And from all accounts, Lonzo Ball is like a nice, humble kid.
Right.
He's got a good head on his shoulders. Obviously, he's been raised by his father to play winning basketball and unselfish basketball. And I think that's what you care about the best. He seems like on the floor a leader. Everybody at UCLA spoke highly of Lonzo. So I'm more worried about Lonzo. I understand LeVar could be an issue, and obviously he's a loud, outspoken personality who's very brash and can be harsh at times, but I'm not worried about that. I'm much more worried about the kid, the prospect, and what type of potential he has to impact you on the court.
Well, and I wonder too if just the fact that LeVar, if the Lakers take him, LeVar gets what he wants. And that's kind of what he's been pushing for a year and a half now, is that he really wanted him to end up in LA where he'd be close to family. I wonder if just the fact that he got what he wanted, that just not that he was going to stop talking or like stop being in the media, but maybe that he would be less likely to interrupt things just because this is the situation that he wanted. He got it. He doesn't necessarily have to interfere anymore. Then might be the case, might not be the case. Who knows? But long term, I agree with you. The holes in Lonzo's game would be the only reason why I might not take him. It wouldn't be LeVar at number 2. That would not be the reason I wouldn't take him.
Plus, say what you want about the Ball family, Lonzo makes a great commercial, man.
He sure does. As does Foot Locker. Yeah.
Number 3, somebody we don't know yet whether he'll make a great commercial. I'm going with Josh Jackson from Kansas. I think Josh Jackson to Philly, maybe not the best fit because they have non-shooters in Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, although he can kind of stretch the floor a little bit. You would, I think, prefer a shooter at that spot, but to me, Jackson is just the best prospect left on the board. Yeah. And it's his defense, it's his versatility, it's his playmaking from the forward spot. He can handle the ball, he can get to the rim. He has like really nice moves, and maybe he won't be a top shooter at the next level. He actually shot at a decent clip in college, which his form is funky. Like, I'm not sure if that translates, but there is hope that he will become a shooter at some point. Like, it's not like he has this totally broken jump shot where it's never gone in and he's missing everything. Like, he had some success at Kansas, and he shot a fair amount of it. It wasn't like he was not shooting any shots at Kansas. So I like Jackson a lot. I think he's a tough kid. I think he plays basketball the right way. I think there's very little chance he fails. Like this is a kid who's going to be a starter on good teams because he's 6'8", he's strong, he can play 2 through 4 probably. He can guard, sometimes even ones. Like this is a kid who just has so much versatility, and the way the NBA is moving, having the ability to play all those positions is so key, and the ability to handle the ball, to pass, to do all these things offensively. Even if he never becomes a shooter, everything else he does kind of fits into the team aspect. So I'm a big Jackson guy. I think Philly, again, it's not ideal to have him drop to number 3. I think maybe Lonzo Ball would be a better fit next to some of the pieces they have because he does project as a better shooter. But I'd be happy with Jackson. They're putting together a ridiculous young core.
Yeah. If
Embiid can stay healthy, and obviously that's a monster if, but Embiid's a stud, and then they have Saric, who's really good, and we haven't seen Simmons yet in an NBA game, but he's another top prospect. Just ridiculous what they're putting together with young talent. And who knows if they'll ever become any good? Who knows if Embiid will ever stay on the court?
Right.
But it's a fun stable of talent they've put together over there.
It really is, and it's funny. I think if the Celtics had gotten the number 3 pick, I think there would be no question whatsoever that they would be chasing Josh Jackson because he's just such a Danny Ainge prospect. He's just hyper competitive. Like that dude just wants to win. He wants to beat you. He's just got that attitude. It's a lot of fun to watch. And like you said, positional versatility. He goes 2 through 4 defensively. And he would fix a lot of the Celtics rebounding problems too. He's a very good rebounder on both ends. So I agree with you. I like him a lot as a prospect, and obviously there's the Danny Ainge trope that he always likes to draft non-shooters. So that's the other thing as well. But he's a really good prospect. I think Philly is an interesting fit. But the other thing about Philly is that they like to get the best player available. And especially this high in the draft, you have to. So I think that's a great pick at number 3. Did you have anything else about Jackson you wanted to add?
No, that's about it. I think I got it all out there.
All right, good.
Quick question. Any way he jumps into the top 2? I know this is the guy's projection.
I think, especially number 2, like I said, I think Fultz is the pick at 1. I think from a standpoint of just being a more complete guy, he's the one. I think at 2, now you start to get to guys who have more flaws, whether it's Lonzo Ball, like we said, with the off-the-dribble game, and Jackson with the shooting. Maybe Lakers go with Jackson. Maybe they pass on Lonzo Ball, even though obviously he would rather play for the Lakers. But yeah, I definitely think there's a chance he moves up at least to number 2.
Yeah, I agree with that. At number 4, I think we're going to have our first real disagreement here. I'm picking number 4, and for Phoenix, I'm taking Dennis Smith. I think it is big for Phoenix to get a point guard here. I think this is a really great point guard draft. And for me, I love Dennis Smith. I love his upside. I love the ceiling that he can hit. He's just a freak athlete. He can score at multiple different levels. There's a lot of things to project to the NBA game that you might not have totally seen at NC State all the time. I think he's going to be a really, really good player. And I think that when you look at his ceiling and where he could end up, like you said at the beginning, there's the outside chance that he ends up being the best player in this draft. So for Phoenix at number 4 in a draft where I think they should go out and try to get a point guard to try to pair with Devin Booker, I think he's a good pick there.
Why do you like him over De'Aaron Fox?
Mostly to do with the shooting, and that's predictable for me. I'm big on shooting. That's one of the reasons why I love Josh Jackson, but I'm a little bit lower on him than maybe some other people are. But he's a good 3-point shooter. Smith is, and Fox just was abysmal from behind the arc last year. So to me, they're comparable athletes. Smith, I like that he is stronger. I like that when he drives, he can do a little bit more, like crashing into people and sort of creating contacts that way. Fox is much more likely to pull it for floaters and to do that kind of thing, and that's super valuable as well. But to me, I like what Smith brings to the floor, and I have a few more concerns about Fox, just as he's skinny, he's he can't shoot, and those are a little bit nerve-wracking for me, even though I really do like the guy.
Yeah, so I like Dennis Smith's potential. Like, if he reaches his ceiling, it is super high. Like, he's one of the few guys who you can compare athletically to Russell Westbrook and not be totally insane. Like, he's an absolute freak. Nobody's Westbrook, but he comes pretty close compared to most humans.
Yeah.
So I do love the top, but I just wonder about his IQ. And I think, especially at the point guard position, being a natural IQ type of guy is huge to me. And I think De'Aaron Fox thinks the game better than Dennis Smith does, and I think all these other point guards think the game better than Dennis Smith does, which is why I wouldn't have Dennis Smith that high in point guards in this draft.
Sure.
Like there are a lot of drafts where Dennis Smith, because of his potential, because of everything that he can do, because when he gets streaky and gets hot, like he did against Duke, he absolutely mutilated Duke. There were, I think, 10 games where he hit at least 3 3-pointers. Like he can shoot. There are makings of a 3-point shooter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not sure I'm sold on his decision making. And at point guard, that's too big an issue for me to overcome. And like even Russell Westbrook, like he has become obviously an MVP candidate.
Right.
And he's surpassed everything. He was another guy who kind of came in with decision making issues. And he's still trying to iron those out. Like he's overcome that. And he's been incredible, and he's become this fantastic talent. But he's still in year whatever 9, 10, whatever it is for him. He's still trying to iron those out, and I don't think Dennis Smith has quite his athleticism. And obviously, like Russell Westbrook is rare, and so it's just to me like the decision making stuff is too much for me to overcome. I still think he's the top 7, 8, or 9 prospect in this draft.
Yeah.
I just don't have him as high as you do.
Yeah, and I mean, part of the reason I have him high too is, we've given Fultz a pass on a lot of stuff, because he was on such a bad team. I mean, you could say similar things about Smith, and obviously Fultz' decision making is on a completely different level than Smith's is. But again, Smith was on a bad team. You could tell, when you watch those games, especially when NC State was, messing up like constantly. He got really frustrated, and I think that definitely that showed in his game. I think it will be better at the next level where he's got competent players around him, hopefully a competent coaching staff wherever he ends up. And so that's one point in his favor for me. I also think we talk about his freak athleticism, and he was coming back from an ACL injury this year, and he was already at that level. I think he can potentially maybe take another step up. So those would be kind of the reasons that I would have him at number 4. I don't know if we want to move on to number 5, we can probably I don't know, maybe continue this conversation.
Yep, 5. So 5. If 5, which is the Sacramento Kings, if De'Aaron Fox slips to them, I think they'll be thrilled.
Yeah.
De'Aaron Fox is another one of those point guards in this draft. This draft is so good with point guards. It's incredible how many talented point guards there are. But I love De'Aaron Fox's athleticism.
Yeah.
I love his speed. Obviously, there are strength issues. There are shooting issues. But I think he's more likely to use his athleticism to do good than Dennis Smith, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Dennis Smith is going to use his athleticism for evil.
Yeah, which works for Russell Westbrook. He uses his athleticism for evil, and he does amazing things with it. But not everybody can do that. So I think De'Aaron Fox has a better IQ, and that's really the only reason I have him, and that's a big reason for me why I have him higher. But if he slips to the Kings, they'll scoop him up. They'll be super pumped, and I think if he does go to the Kings, like Buddy Hield and De'Aaron Fox, I don't love Buddy Hield as a prospect, but he can shoot the heck out of the basketball.
I like him next to De'Aaron Fox.
And if you can get a point guard who has that much speed, that much athleticism to break down the defense and then find Buddy Hield spotting up, yes, please. Like that's a nice looking backcourt to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have much to add to that. I put Dennis Smith higher than De'Aaron Fox, but I don't want that to come off that I am low on De'Aaron Fox. I really like De'Aaron Fox, and for all those reasons you just mentioned, I think he's really smart. And I also think from what everybody says, you talk to the kid once and you just like him. Like he's just a likable guy, and I think that's a great thing to add to your team, especially on a team that's going to be young like Sacramento is.
I'm big on guys who cry after they lose an NCAA tournament. Yeah. Like no lie, like a lot of people look at that and they think like what the heck, this kid's soft, like the Adam Morrison thing.
Right.
And Matt Morrison obviously didn't pan out.
Was actually soft.
But I give me a kid who cares that much about his team and about the team where he knew he was going to be one and done the whole year. He came in and he cared that much about Kentucky. I love that passion. I'm big on De'Aaron Fox. And I'm big on the next guy too, number 6.
Yeah, I am as well. I picked number 6, so I got the Orlando Magic, and I went with Jason Tatum. I like him a lot. He's versatile, versatile scorer. I think he's going to be a good defender. I know a lot of people. There have been question marks about his defense, but I like the way he moves. I like his body. I like his strength already, and so I think that, there's a chance he could be a really high level player at that position. I like him for Orlando. They need somebody that they need to just have a scorer on that team.
Yeah.
Like it needs to be. It can't be Vucevic. Like they gotta have like a real scorer on that team. I also really like him next to Aaron Gordon.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
love the fit next to Aaron Gordon.
Yep.
Two kind of interchangeable pieces where he can allow Aaron Gordon to play the 4, and you can still have the shooting and size on the wing at the 3. I love that duo.
Exactly, and I think the other thing is with Gordon and Tatum, if you need to, you can just have Gordon guard the 3, and then you can have Tatum play the 4 too if you need to.
Yeah.
So they really are kind of interchangeable that way, and I like that a lot. The other thing that I think he's really going to kind of bring to the table is, again, like Fox with Tatum, you're just getting like a good guy. Everybody likes Tatum. Everybody kind of. He seems to kind of have like some gravity to him.
You like those good guys?
Actually, that's not really my thing, but with these two, it actually is. I think Tatum's a really good prospect, and I think he's a great fit in Orlando. And if he, this draft is weird because he's such a good player, and I think it's realistic that he could slip to 6. Like I don't feel weird having him at 6 in this mock because 1 through 5 are so good. This is such a loaded class.
My feelings on Tatum are weird because I don't think he's a totally instinctual team player. Like he's very skilled, very talented scorer. He doesn't make the right pass always on time. I think there are some things he needs to learn from that aspect about basketball, and that's the only reason I have him that low. Like
Sure.
He's a 6'8", smooth scorer. He's super skilled, can do a ton of things off the balance, like face-up game, really fun. And I do think he's a great fit, especially if he can develop as a 3-point shooter. I think, if he can become a knockdown 3-point shooter at his size with his skill set next to Aaron Gordon, that's a really nice duo. And the Magic need a scorer super badly, and they need obviously more young talent. They've not wasted lottery picks because I like some of the pieces that they've put together, but it hasn't made sense yet. And I think Tatum begins to help make that make sense.
Yeah, they need to hit. They haven't missed on a lot of these guys, but they haven't just really hit the sweet spot with one. I think Tatum could be that. I'm not very worried about his 3-point shot. I think he's going to be a good shooter in the league. I think when you look at the polish on the rest of his game, I think all it's going to take for him is a couple of off seasons where he just really focuses on his 3-pointers, and I think that's going to really come along. And like you said, I think that's just going to add a lot to his game. You want to take number 7 for the Minnesota Timberwolves?
Number 7, Timberwolves. I'm going with Jonathan Isaac. I think it's just totally sensible pick. They already have Karl Towns. They already have Andrew Wiggins. They already have Zach LaVine. All these young freak athlete scorers. Now you can add another freak athlete in Jonathan Isaac, a long, versatile guy who projects as a defensive stopper. And that's what they need. And I can imagine Tom Thibodeau sitting there breaking down tape like, we need defense. I can imagine him breaking down tape like screaming, throwing stuff off the wall, watching his team play last year. And they have all the scores. They have all the talent. They have so many young pieces that are going to be really good for a long time. They need to figure out how to get stops. I think Jonathan Isaac helps them do that. I don't know what he'll be as an offensive player in the NBA. I have no clue what he'll give at all at that end of the court, and I don't really care at this spot. Give me that length, give me that athleticism, give me that versatility, and I think the Timberwolves will be happy because they have other guys who can put the ball in the basket. They need a guy like him. I'm big on Isaac. I'm not a huge Isaac guy like some other people are, but I'm huge on Isaac to the Timberwolves. Yeah,
and I think that's a pretty common thing just because the fit is so perfect. And the other thing that I like about him is, when people talk about his offensive game, they like to talk about how he's not going to be this go-to scorer. He doesn't kind of have that mentality.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's perfect in Minnesota.
He'll be the 4th option, and that's great.
And that's ideal. And assuming he can shoot, which it does seem like he can. So that seemed to be kind of what he was good at, was spot-up shooting. So, plenty of people have covered this perfect fit. I think we both are in lockstep on that one. Isaac to Minnesota makes a lot of sense.
Before we get to 8, we are halfway through the lottery, and I know we guys cut out trades, but where do you think a trade is most likely to happen in the top half of the lottery?
I think the Kings, with their 5 and 10 pick, I wouldn't be shocked if they moved up. Obviously, there are reports they're trying to move up. I think, other than that, I don't think anybody I don't think there's too much movement. I read Kevin O'Connor's piece about this draft being a good one to move down just because there are so many really good prospects. It's tough to move down in the draft because there's going to be someone you fall in love with, and you're not going to know if he's going to be available later in the draft. And even if you just move down a couple spots, like that can be the difference between a superstar and an all-star, or an all-star and a starter. Even if it seems okay because there are so many really talented prospects in this draft, it's something that's very tough for a front office to do. I don't see any teams having the audacity to pull that off.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only other possibility that I could see is if Isaac was taken with, the 3 or the 4 maybe. If Minnesota then was like, okay, well let's go out, let's try to use the 7 for somebody that we could use alongside these guys. I could maybe see them making a move, but the other teams, and like you said, potentially Sacramento trying to package that up. That's a possibility as well. But to me, I think there's so many good players in this draft. I think it's going to be really easy for these teams to fall in love with these guys.
And I think Minnesota, like you said, like they could go and package that for someone who will help their team more immediately. To me, Tom Thibodeau's patience is going to be a key for them because you want to get someone who will help them on the timeline that they're set up to compete. And yes, you can go out and get a veteran to help now, but why? Like really, and maybe it's to give guidance to the younger guys. Maybe you can get someone who can come in and lift your defense enough to where you can start to make noise in the playoffs.
Right.
But even then, like to me, draft a talented guy in this draft that has so many deep prospects and be happy for a long time.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree. So moving on to number 8 here, we've gotten a few now that I think Tatum and Isaac have both been ones that have been guys that have been rumored to Orlando and Minnesota, and we kind of got our third one in a row here. I have Malik Monk going to the Knicks. It's just hard to see Monk falling past this. He's such a good shooter. He's kind of a great fit wherever he ends up because he's a great shooter. Teams need shooters, and he can score in a variety of different ways. Really, really athletic. There's plenty of holes in his game defensively. There's questions about whether he can ever kind of be a creator, but if you just have him as a shooting guard, I don't know that that's too much of an issue. To me, I think that he's a very logical fit with New York at this spot, and I think they'll be really happy to get him. I think he's going to be a really good player.
It's weird because he's the most one-dimensional player I can remember that's this good of a prospect.
Yeah.
Like there's very little outside of shooting and scoring that he does particularly well. Obviously, he's a freak athlete, 42-inch vertical.
Right.
But like he doesn't project as a plus defender. He has a super small wingspan. He's thin. He hardly ever rebounded the basketball last year. He's not a great playmaker. Like I don't know if he'll be able to become a solid point guard in the NBA.
Yeah, I don't think he will.
It's just his scoring.
Yeah.
But he's that electric as a scorer, that great as a shooter, like especially for an 18-year-old freshman, which he was at times during the season. It was ridiculous. Like he was taking 8-9 3-pointers a game and hitting 40% of them, all tough shots. Every defense was keyed in on him, and he still did it game after game with some ridiculous outbursts. I love his scoring potential. I hate a lot of the rest of his game, but it's okay because his scoring is that good.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think the pairing of him and Porzingis is a pretty fun possibility just because they're both such good shooters. I mean, that's so much floor spacing for everybody else. I think you can, not necessarily that Monk is going to be the second best player and Porzingis is best player, but Monk can be a nice fit along with whoever they bring in to help with Porzingis. So to me, I got Monk going 8. Unless you have more on Monk, who do you have going 9 to the Mavericks?
I got Lauri Markkanen. I just think at his size, he's legitimate 7-footer.
Yep.
With the shooting that he has, I mean, obviously there are questions about rim protection. There are questions about defense. There are questions like he's not a normal 7-footer, and that's good. I'm okay with that. Like I don't like the defensive issues, obviously, but being a non-normal 7-footer, being that stretch 7-footer who's going to knock down shots, and he's totally what separates him from a lot of big man shooters. He's totally comfortable as a shooter.
Yeah.
Like some guys are reluctant shooters and they space the floor because they've learned to space the floor. He plays like a shooting guard. Like he has that mentality, and because of how much of a threat that will be from his spot, he is going to open up the court for everybody. He's kind of like Ryan Anderson to me, where Ryan Anderson has never been like great at anything else, but he's such a good shooter that he just opens up things for everything. And you saw the impact he had on the Houston Rockets this year to open the court for James Harden. You've seen the impact he's had elsewhere. And when you have a guy that big who demands attention all the time, that's such a valuable piece, even if he never becomes anything else. And I think there's a chance he will, because he's mobile, because he's in great shape, because he has other assets besides just the fact that he's a shooter. But because of how great he is at that one skill, it's hard to see him being anything less than a very useful piece in the NBA.
Definitely. And I think one thing to note is that we have him going 9 here to the Mavericks, and that's not because we think he's going to be Dirk Nowitzki, which was like one of the comparisons he got, like, you know, from people who were over.
That was like the Kelly Olynyk Dirk Nowitzki comparison.
Exactly. Like, he's not going to be Dirk Nowitzki, but that's okay. He's going to be Lauri Markkanen, and he should be pretty good. Like, he can, you know, I think. Yeah, we got Nick O'Malley.
Spell his name right. Put some respect on that name.
Instead of the I?
Yes, instead of the I.
There you go.
But you know, anytime you got a 7-footer who can come off pin downs, I mean, that's just such an intriguing threat because he's 7 feet tall. It's just going to be really hard to get out and contest that shot. So there's just going to be a lot of ways to use him. You know, Rick Carlisle is such a good coach. I think it's going to be, if he can work his way onto the floor, I think it's going to be really fun to see what he can do with him on that Mavericks team. I've got number 10, which makes it a little bit awkward because you and I drafted.
This is a killer to me, man.
Well, this is the thing, is that we drafted different guys.
He redrafted. We should have had rules on this. He redrafted. He took someone else.
I didn't like my original pick at number 10 for the Kings, so I switched it up, and I'm happy I did, even though it screwed up the rest of the draft. I'm going with OG Anunoby from Indiana. I'm a big OG guy. I know you've got your reservations about his offense, but I love his defensive potential. He's going to be so versatile. He's going to be able to guard so many different positions. You know, he did have the injury last year, but he is very athletic. You know, just great at moving his feet. He's so strong. Just such a strong player. And I think I actually really like the idea of Sacramento having De'Aaron Fox and OG. You know, whether OG ever becomes a decent shooter or Fox ever becomes a decent shooter, that's going to be problematic. But the defensive duo is nice there. And if you're talking about a lineup with, you know, Fox, Buddy Hield, Anunoby, you know, Scal, and, you know, maybe Willie Cauley-Stein, it's a fun team.
Some intriguing pieces.
Yeah, I don't know, it's a fun young team. It's a team that you'd watch on League Pass for sure.
I don't know, man.
It's a team I'd watch on League Pass.
I don't watch those. I watch those young teams like once, and then I'm like, yeah, let's go for some quality basketball instead. I like Anunoby as a defender. I like him a lot as a defender. He has freak skills. I just think because of how limited he is offensively, and because I'm not sure he'll become a shooter, he needs to be so good defensively. Like, you need to be great and absolutely game-changing to even get on the court in a lot of cases. Like, and maybe he will. And based on his tools, maybe that's more probably. But I'm a little worried about that. And I would have him in the lottery too, partly because I don't really love.
You did have him in the lottery until I stole him from you.
Partly because I don't really love anybody else late in this lottery.
Yeah.
But he worries me, like, and especially now he's coming off the torn ACL.
Right.
If that even limits him a little bit, now all of a sudden this freak defender isn't as much of a freak defender, and he still has all the skill limitations. So OG Anunoby, he's an interesting case, man. Like, I have no clue what that dude will be. He has all the physical tools, even like offensively, he's got all the physical tools to become really freaking good, but it's just the skill level isn't there at all, and he needs to do a ton of reworking of his game to get there. And maybe he'll just be such an awesome defender it won't matter, but he needs a lot of work offensively. Number 11, this is one pick I don't love. So this is kind of where the draft to me begins to fall off. And I know there are probably some people who love Donovan Mitchell. I know there are Frank Ntilikina fans out there. I think I said his name right.
You're close.
I studied Ntilikina as much as I could, but I don't know too much about his game. At his age, with the amount of playing time he's gotten, it's kind of tough to gauge what he'll be. Zach Collins, I like him. So this is my problem with Zach Collins, and I'm going to pick him at number 11 to the Charlotte Hornets. He's tall, he's pretty athletic, he blocks shots, he does a lot of things for your team. He was super efficient offensively off the bench for Gonzaga last year. Like, I get why people like him. To me, it's just, at center in the NBA today, you need to be such a great rim protector or such a great rebounder to even be on the court. And maybe he becomes more of a stretch guy, a skill guy, and that's possible. Like, I like some of his skill level, but I just don't see right now what he does to stay on an NBA court and to be anything more than a third or fourth big.
Yeah.
And I mean, at that stage in the lottery, maybe you're okay with getting a third or fourth big, but I don't love Collins as much as some people do. I like him. I just don't know if there's that like extra upside to him that some other guys have.
Sure. Yeah, and after all that, you're still going with
After all that, I'm still going with him. The Charlotte Hornets get another white big dude.
No, I agree with you. I mean, he was very efficient, and he's there's things to like about his game, but you're right. It's there's limitations there, but it's the number 11 pick in the draft.
I mean, I do like how he contests shots.
Yeah.
Always straight up, like really smart defensively, and he's a big dude, 7 foot. Like, there's a lot to like there.
Yeah.
And I was probably too harsh. I'm still picking him at number 11, but this is to me like where the draft. Actually, I think after marketing to me is where the draft kind of begins to fall off after number 9. Although Ntilikina, who knows? Maybe he's great. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm higher on Ntilikina than you are. I think a little bit, which is funny because we've still got him slipping, and I have the next pick.
I picked him up too.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have Ntilikina slip one more because I really like Donovan Mitchell to the Pistons. I think you can't draft for fit, but 12 you can draft a little bit for fit, and I think that if the Pistons run back a similar roster next season, Mitchell could be a nice addition. He's super athletic. People believe that his shot will translate to the NBA, and I think just that combination, the athleticism, just the kind of the work that he puts in. I think there's some good fit there. There's some good potential there, and I think you're kind of you're drafting a high upside pick at 12, and I like that. I like if you take kind of like a stab at somebody like Mitchell at that point. I think that's usually a pretty good selection.
Yeah. So number 13, I'm going with Frank Ntilikina.
There he is.
And the more tape I watch on him, the more I see like a French Drew Holiday. Like really has a lot of physical tools defensively. He's not like the most natural playmaker, I don't think, but he can do it, and he can get to the paint. He doesn't have like the creativity of some of the guards in front of him, but Drew Holiday, I think, is, if he stays healthy, he's a really good point guard. Like, he is a very talented dude, and if you become the French Drew Holiday, which is kind of the feeling I get when I watch him, then yeah, that's cool. And I think for Denver, I think first of all it's best player, best prospect left on the board. But I also think with Jamal Murray's ability to work off the ball and the size in that potential backcourt, I think obviously they drafted Emmanuel Mudiay. That hasn't gone well through 2 years. We'll see if he can kind of redeem his career.
Yeah.
But it's not like Emmanuel Mudiay is going to stop you from drafting another guard in this draft. So I'm going with Ntilikina. I think the Murray-Ntilikina backcourt could be great. I love Denver's young talent.
I do too.
From Jokic to Murray to Hernan Gomez, like, they have a lot of young pieces that are going to be really, really good. And it starts with Jokic. But that backcourt with Ntilikina and Murray, I kind of like that too.
Yeah. Another league pass team that'd be fun to watch.
For you.
For me.
Although Jokic is my dude.
I was going to say, he seems like your kind of player.
I would watch Jokic play like in some bum game at the park on TV. I would like pay-per-view that if I could. His passing is just so good.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I'm gonna when the first time the Kings and the Nuggets play each other, I'm gonna live tweet it and just at you the whole game.
I'll probably watch it for Jokic.
All right, good. So I hate 14. I hate the picks here. I'm not high on. It's funny because there's a couple of second round guys that I really like, and there's like a couple of like low first rounders that I think are going to be okay, or that I'm kind of high on. But there's just nobody between like 14 and 23 that I would feel comfortable with here. So I went with John Collins from Wake Forest. He's a tools guy. He's got he's pretty bouncy. He can he's efficient in the pick and roll as a power forward. He's got a lot of offensive skills that I think will translate to the NBA. I don't think if you draft John Collins, he's going to bust. I think you're going to get somebody who's going to contribute. I don't know to what level, but I do think you're going to get somebody who's going to play good NBA minutes, who's going to give you some good NBA production. And at 14, when I'm not sure about anybody else in this range, and when I don't think Luke Kennard is a good fit for the Heat, because he would be the other guy that I think is in this range that I don't feel like is going to be a bust. But I don't think Kennard's a good fit, so I went with John Collins here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with it. I do think this draft kind of, not that it completely falls apart, but there's like a big drop off from the top 8, 9, or 10 prospects to kind of the rest of the lottery. And there are a lot of people that are higher on Zach Collins than I am, and maybe you include him, maybe you include Neil Keenan, maybe you include Donovan Mitchell, who I think is another solid prospect. But then from there on, it's like, from the way I look at it, at least it's a steep drop off.
It does seem like the tiers are super, super pronounced in this draft. Like I feel like it's Fultz, and then it's 2 through 7 or 8, and then it's like 9 through 12, and each one of those tiers is like very real. And then there's a big gap kind of in between each one of those, which is kind of interesting. So that's our lottery. We're not going to do the full first round because it would fall apart fast.
Like we said, man, the talent falls apart. You don't even want me to see me try to pronounce some of those names later on in the draft too.
We never got to Harry Giles, some other guys like that. Did you want to talk about your any second round guys that might interest you for the Celtics?
I'm a big Josh Hart guy. Mm-hmm. And I don't think everybody else is as big a Josh Hart guy as I am. I just think he's a skilled guy. I think he can handle some point guard skills at the NBA, or at least some ball handling abilities, whether it's secondary or whatever. I think he can play the 1, 2, and 3. Maybe he can't defend the 1, but he can definitely defend the 2 and 3. I just think he's very solid, and I think his versatility at both ends will give a coach options to slide him into rotation. And once you get to the second round, all you're really looking for is a guy who will crack the rotation and who will produce minutes for you and will be okay.
Yeah.
And I think Josh Hart is a guy who will be okay. And obviously there are concerns about his age, how much developing he has to do, some of his physical athleticism, but I'm a Josh Hart guy, man. He was one of the best players in the country for one of the best teams in the country, and he's got size.
Yeah.
And he's got skill, so I'm a Josh Hart dude.
That's fair.
I'm probably the biggest Josh Hart.
I think you are. Yeah, definitely. Any questions or anything that we got?
A couple questions. One was about any chance the Celtics straight down?
Let you handle this, Jay.
I mean, there's you could see Philadelphia loading up some assets and trying to get to number 1. They have next year's Los Angeles pick. They have their own pick next year. They have Dario Saric. But trading from number 1 is always really tough, and you can look really stupid, and it would probably be really stupid in a lot of cases. So maybe if the Celtics don't fall in love with Markelle Fultz and they think they can get who they want at number 3, maybe that's something that would interest them, whether the 76ers could put together some package to entice them. I just don't think, I don't see it happening, just because, Fultz is really a complete prospect, and I think there's enough of a drop-off after him that you don't want to give up the chance to get him. And even though there are a lot of other really good prospects in this draft, I just don't think you want to miss the 6'4", 6'5" point guard with a super wingspan who can do everything offensively. That's not wise.
Yeah, we talked about the tiers, and when the tier is the one guy, and then the rest of the tiers are they're good players, but when there is that one specific guy that's so clearly above everybody else, it's pretty tough to convince people to come off that.
Yeah, you want that guy.
Yeah, you want that one. You kind of want that number 1.
Is it hard to trade down to 3 when that guy at 3 could end up going at 6? Jason Tatum is a guy, one of our commenters said, Celtics going to get Tatum at 3. You guys haven't fallen to 6. Is that a tricky thing when it's that second tier is kind of
I don't think so, because if they traded out at 3, they'd probably have someone they would want at 3 who they thought would be available at 3 and who they would be okay with getting at 3. I just think Fultz is too good, and you've heard Danny Ainge talk about it recently, we have enough good players. We need great ones.
Right.
Well, you don't trade the number one pick if you're looking for great players. You just don't, and you want that transcendent talent that can push you to a championship level, whether it's in 2 years, 4 years, whatever the case may be. They want that transcendent type of talent, and Markelle Fultz is the guy who has the greatest chance to get there in this draft. So you don't give that up.
Yeah, I'm in agreement.
All right. Anything else from you guys before we wrap things up?
No.
About it. Shout out to the stain on my shirt. Shout out to my sandals, which are broken, which you guys can't see. Shout out to Tom, who got peed on last night by his newborn son.
This morning, actually.
This morning.
You guys are just troopers today, just grinding it out.
We've been through a lot today, man. Thank you guys for watching, listening. We appreciate it. And that'll do it for the Facebook Live, MassLive mock draft.
All right, thanks for tuning in. We'll have all the coverage leading up to the draft on next Thursday. We'll have all the live coverage for that. Jay and Tom, between now and then, we'll have full coverage. Any more mock drafts coming? You writing up?
I'll have one the day before the draft. I'm sure Tom will have something too.
We'll have lots of stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll see how much things can change between this mock draft and a week from now, which is how these things go.
He'll probably steal OG from me again.
All right, thanks for tuning in, folks.